The bamboo trap is woven with care for a single purpose, which is to ensnare the silver fish of the winding river. Once the fish is caught and rests within the basket, the trap is forgotten, its duty fulfilled. The wooden snare is set within the tall grass to catch the fleet-footed hare. Once the hare is secured, the snare is no longer held in the mind of the hunter. In this same way, words are but tools used to capture meaning and convey the deep essence of ideas. Once the idea has been grasped by the spirit, the words should be discarded like autumn leaves falling into a stream. Where, in all the Middle Kingdom, can I find a man who has truly forgotten words? That is the man I wish to sit with in the shade of the weeping willow, for only he understands the silence that speaks the truth of the Tao. There is an ancient path, a way of being that has been passed down by the sages of old. Yet in this restless age, it is a path that is deeply misunderstood by those who seek only the surface of things. We call this practice the sacred fast. To the common man, fasting is merely the act of turning away from the steaming bowl of rice or the fermented juice of the plum. He thinks that by denying his belly, he has mastered the art. Indeed, the fasting of the flesh is a well-known discipline. One may cease to eat for a day or a full cycle of the moon to purge the humors and cleanse the inner organs of their heaviness. Yet the sage of the butterfly, Master Zhuang, taught a secret that is far more radical, a truth that pierces the veil of the mundane. He spoke of Xinzhai, which is the fasting of the heart and the mind. It is not the emptying of the stomach that brings liberation, but the emptying of the soul. It is not the washing of the limbs, but the purification of the consciousness from the suffocating weight of accumulated thoughts. In the chronicles of our ancestors, it is told that Yin Hui, a most devoted and diligent seeker of the way, came before his master, the great teacher Kong, with a heart full of noble ambition. Yin Hui bowed low and spoke of his intent to journey to a distant and troubled province, a land ruled by a sovereign whose heart was cold and whose temper was as unpredictable as a mountain storm. This ruler was a man of violence, a tyrant who treated his subjects like blades of grass to be mown down for his pleasure. Yin Hui asked his master for guidance on how to navigate such treacherous waters. His mind was a whirlpool of strategies. He pondered whether he should be direct and risk the executioner's blade by speaking the harsh truth, or whether he should be indirect and risk appearing weak and subservient. He wondered if he should nod in agreement with the tyrant's whims or challenge the darkness with the light of reason. Yin Hui's mind clattered like a merchant's cart on a stony road, filled with possibilities, fears, and calculated maneuvers. The great teacher Kong listened with the patience of an ancient mountain. When the student had finished his long recitation of plans, the master spoke a single unexpected command: "You must fast." Yin Hui was perplexed and replied that he was a man of simple means. He explained that he had already abstained from the richness of meat and the sweetness of wine for many months, living only on the most meager of offerings. But the master shook his head and told him that such things were merely the fasting of the body. He was speaking of the fasting of the heart. This, the master explained, is a labor far more difficult and a discipline far more profound. The fast of the body leaves the stomach hollow, but the fast of the heart leaves the mind as vast and clear as the summer sky. One is a temporary discomfort of the flesh, while the other is the only way to break the invisible chains of the prison in which you unknowingly reside. Master Kong leaned forward and whispered the secret of the ages. He told his student not to listen merely with the ears, nor even with the intellect of the mind. Instead, he commanded him to listen with the vital breath, the qi that flows through all living things. The ears are limited to the gathering of sounds, and the mind is limited to the recognition of labels and categories. But the vital energy is empty and receptive. It does not judge, it does not categorize, and it does not seek to possess. It simply waits. It is only through this divine emptiness that a man can truly receive the Tao, for the Tao does not enter a space that is already crowded with the clutter of self-importance. This is the fasting of the heart, to become so profoundly empty that nothing in the external world can disturb your inner stillness. It is to be so transparent that all things may pass through you like light through a sheet of polished jade, leaving no shadow and creating no attachment. Consider, my friend, what this means in the walk of your daily life. Your mind is currently like a jar filled to the brim with stagnant water. It is heavy with opinions, thick with judgments, and clouded by preferences and fears. You carry a mountain of memories and an ocean of plans, and you tell yourself stories about who you are and what the world must be. These contents are not neutral observers. They are the filters through which you perceive existence. You do not see the world as it is. You see the world as you are. You do not hear the wind in the pines. You hear your own interpretation of the wind. When a brother speaks to you, before his lips have even finished shaping the first sentence, your mind has already judged his character, categorized his intent, and prepared a clever response. You have already decided if you agree or disagree, if he is a friend or a foe. You are not present in that moment. You are living in a tomb of your own making, an echo chamber of your accumulated mental patterns. Every new sunrise is filtered through the dust of yesterday's conclusions. The wandering monks from the West speak of the monkey mind, that restless creature that leaps from branch to branch, never pausing, never quiet, exhausting the spirit with its perpetual chatter and aimless motion. The masters of the Tao understood that this fullness of mind is the greatest barrier to wisdom. When a tea bowl is already full to the rim, no fresh jasmine tea can be poured into it. When a mind is already full of its own cleverness, no eternal truth can find a home there. This is why Master Zhuang emphasized the practice of mental fasting. It is the deliberate act of emptying the vessel. This is not achieved through the violence of suppression or the force of will, but by simply ceasing to feed the mind with constant stimulation. Just as you fast from the grain by closing your mouth, you fast from the world by closing the gates of unnecessary input. You stop adding more opinions to the pile, you stop collecting the heavy stones of judgment, and you cease the endless accumulation of trivial knowledge. In the world of men, we are taught the opposite. We are told that to be wise is to know many things, and to be powerful is to possess much information. We feed our minds from dawn until dusk. We listen to the rumors of the marketplace. We read the endless scrolls of the scribes. We engage in the noisy debates of the tea houses, and we let the opinions of the masses stream into our consciousness without a moment of respite. We are force-feeding our souls like geese being fattened for a feast. The result is a mind that is bloated and sluggish, a spirit that is unable to process the beauty of a single flower, and a heart that suffers from a perpetual indigestion of the soul. This is the source of the anxiety that plagues the people, the confusion that clouds the eyes of the young, and the paralysis that keeps the old from finding peace. You cannot see the path beneath your feet because your mind is too full of maps to see the earth itself. The fasting of the heart reverses this tragic decline. You make the choice to stop consuming the endless stream of mental noise. You step back from the whirlpool of thoughts and judgments that fill every waking hour. This is not a permanent withdrawal from the duties of life, nor is it a rejection of the world's beauty. It is a deliberate and sacred practice, a period of silence where you allow the sediment of your thoughts to settle to the bottom of the pond. When the water is no longer stirred by the stick of desire or the wind of gossip, it naturally becomes clear. Yan Hui understood this teaching at last. He realized that if he went to the tyrant with a mind full of strategies, he would be met with the tyrant's own strategies. But if he approached with the emptiness of the heart, he would be like the valley that receives the rain. He would see the tyrant not as a monster to be outmaneuvered, but as a man whose own mind was a storm of suffering. When you approach life with a full mind, you see only the reflections of your own past. When you approach with an empty mind, you see the reality that is actually there. This is what the sages call the beginner's mind, the ability to look upon the world as if for the very first time, without the burden of knowledge coloring your sight. Many in the modern world seek mindfulness, yet they treat it as another thing to be added to their collection. They add more techniques, more rituals, and more mental effort to achieve a state of calm. But this is like trying to still the ripples on a lake by hitting them with a paddle. True peace is found not in adding, but in subtracting. It is the fasting of the heart. It is the cessation of the stirring. It is the moment when you stop feeding the fire and let the embers cool into the quietude of ash. How then does one begin this journey toward emptiness? Start with the simplicity of the morning sun. Choose 1 hour of the day where you consume nothing with the mind. Put away the scrolls, silence the instruments of music, and walk away from the conversations of the court. Sit in the silence of your own garden or by the bank of a quiet stream. Allow the mental content you have gathered to settle like dust after a windstorm. In the beginning, you will find this silence to be a strange and uncomfortable companion. Without the external noise to distract you, the internal chatter of your own thoughts will seem to grow louder and more chaotic. Your mind will cry out for its accustomed food. It will beg for a problem to solve or a grievance to nurse. This is the withdrawal of the spirit, for the mind is addicted to its own movement. Do not fight these thoughts, for to fight them is to give them more life. Simply observe them. Watch them as you would watch white clouds passing over the peaks of the Kunlun Mountains. Do not engage them in conversation. Do not analyze their origin or judge their quality. They arise only because they were already stored within you. The fast allows them to rise to the surface and evaporate into the ether, just as toxins leave the skin during a fast of the body. The masters of the Tao often compared the human mind to a jar of muddy water. A foolish man tries to clear the water by reaching in with his hands and trying to pull the mud out, but his very effort only stirs the silt and makes the water darker. The wise man knows that the only way to clear the water is to leave the jar alone. Stillness is the only medicine for turbidity. Your mind works in the same way. You cannot think your way into clarity. You cannot analyze your way into peace. You find the truth by stopping the process of accumulation. As you practice this fasting, a shift begins to occur within the depths of your being. The heavy clouds begin to part, and the light of the Tao begins to shine through the cracks. Your decisions, which once seemed so difficult, become as effortless as the flow of water around a stone. You begin to respond to the challenges of the world not with old patterns and conditioned fears, but with a fresh and vibrant perception. Master Kong told his student that when he achieved this state of emptiness, he could enter the palace of the tyrant without a single tremor of fear. Because Yin Hui would bring no judgments, the tyrant would have nothing to strike against. Because he would bring no agenda, the tyrant would have nothing to frustrate. He would be like water, which is the softest thing in the world, yet it can wear away the hardest rock. Water has no fixed form, yet it adapts to every vessel. It cannot be wounded by a sword or broken by a hammer, for there is nothing to strike. This is the supreme power of emptiness against the futility of force. This practice has the power to transform every relationship in your life. When you listen to your spouse or your child without a heart full of expectations, you hear the music of their soul for the first time. They feel heard because you are not filtering their words through your own resentments or your fixed opinions of who they are. You are simply a mirror, reflecting their truth back to them without distortion. In your labors, this emptiness is the key to mastery. The mind that is full of information is often paralyzed by the weight of too many choices. The empty mind, however, sees the natural path immediately and moves with the grace of a leaping tiger. In the creation of art, whether it be the painting of a scroll or the carving of jade, this emptiness is essential. The full mind can only rearrange the things it already knows, but the empty mind is a vessel that receives the new, the original, and the sublime. Every master craftsman knows that the greatest ideas come not when they are straining to think, but when they have finally let go. This is why the solution to a problem often appears in the quiet moments before sleep or in the first light of dawn. In those moments, the conscious mind has fasted, the fullness has dissolved, and the truth that was always present becomes visible in the clearing. The Book of the Way tells us that the Tao is like an empty bowl that can never be filled, yet from it, all things in the universe flow. Your mind was meant to be this bowl. It was not meant to be a warehouse for the storage of dead ideas, but a living vessel for the reception of the present moment. Modern men suffer because they have forgotten how to be empty. They mistake a crowded mind for a rich life. They mistake anxiety for engagement. But the ancient wisdom remains unchanged. If you wish to find clarity, you must practice subtraction. Start this very day. Find 1 hour of silence. Dedicate 1 day each week to the fasting of the senses, where no scrolls are read and no rumors are sought. Engage in one conversation where you listen with your whole being, without preparing a single word in response. At first, you may feel as though you are losing something, as though you are becoming less than you were. But soon, you will realize that you are not losing yourself. You are losing the burden that has been crushing yourself. Master Zhuang's final teaching is this: the perfect man uses his mind like a mirror. It responds to what comes before it, but it retains nothing once the object has passed. The mirror does not store the image of the mountain once the traveler has moved on. It does not hold on to the beauty of the flower after the petals have withered. It reflects each moment with perfect clarity and then releases it completely. Each new reflection is fresh, uncontaminated by what came before. This is the heart that has fasted. This is the mind that is truly alive. You cannot achieve this state by seeking more knowledge or by attending more lectures. You achieve it only by letting go. The fasting of the heart is not about becoming a void or a ghost. It is about becoming so present and so clear that you become one with the flow of the Tao. The sages of the high mountains lived in this way. They were empty of fixed opinions, yet they were the source of all wisdom. They were silent, yet their words carried the weight of thunder. They were still, yet they accomplished all things without effort. They did not have strategies, they had vision. They did not have plans, they had alignment. You too can live in this way. You do not need to flee to a cave or abandon your family. You only need to periodically fast from the accumulation of the world. Just as you would not dream of eating every hour of the day without rest, do not feed your mind without pause. Give your soul the gift of emptiness. Allow your heart to digest the experiences of life before you add more to the pile. The practice is simple, but the results are as profound as the foundations of the earth. The full mind is a storm of confusion, but the empty mind is a sanctuary of peace. The empty bowl holds the most, and the fasted heart receives the Tao. This is the ancient wisdom that the world has forgotten, yet it remains here, waiting for you in the silence. Return to the emptiness, and you will find that you have finally come home.